Welcome, welcome. I just want to give you a brief introductory on what the IUCAID is. As Dr. PD said, the IUCAID is Virgin Islands University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, and it's funded by the federal government, departments of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Education. We have been in existence since 1994. Our mission is to enhance the life of people with disability so they can live in this community productively, happily, and fully included as members of the society. So what do? We do a lot of things. One of the things that we do is we do workshops, seminars, colloquiums, to enhance, to enlighten, and educate people that people with disability can be workers, can be taxpayers, instead of social services beneficiaries. If we give them the chance, if we give them the training. So we try to design programs that would include people with disabilities, because it's our sincere belief, and it's the truth, when there is shortage of professionals in any field, be it education, nursing, medicine, law, if there is shortage of professionals, people with disabilities get the shorter end of the stick. But if we produce enough teachers, if we produce enough psychologists, if we produce enough nurses, people with disabilities will get their fair share. So we design programs. One of objective is interdisciplinary education. And what we do is we try to build the capacity of the university. And over the years, we designed new programs. For example, we implemented an AA degree in American Sign Language. And we want to have as many Virgin Islanders as efficient as our interpreter. And we are working on that. We also saw the need for a good early childhood education program. Early child education is very important. It's the foundation. And if our children do not get the foundation, they cannot do well anywhere. So we looked at our teachers. Most of the preschool and the daycare programs were housed and staffed by good, nice individuals, but they were not trained. So we came up with this program, Inclusive Early Childhood Education Program. It's a certificate that leads to an associate, that leads to a baccalaureate degree. That program is the first in the nation because it's inclusive. We train them to be teachers of children with disabilities and without a disability. Most educators, most institutions of higher education speak from both sides of the mouth. They talk inclusion, but they practice seclusion or segregation. We decided to educate our people so they would be able to teach children with disabilities and without the same classroom. And if you run across any one of our graduates and you ask them question, are you special education or a general education, they will jump at you. They say, no, I am an inclusive education teacher. And we give them the skill and the confidence to do just that. So this is one of the things that we do. Another thing that we do is when we come, we start talking with people with disabilities and start telling them about assistive technology. And assistive technology, for those of you who are not familiar with it, could be defined simply as devices or services that would help people with disability to do things otherwise they cannot do. So when we started telling them about the existence of new devices that would help them work, that will help them go to school, many of the people in our community said, I need that, but I cannot afford. So we wrote a grant. We got about $750,000. We put most of the money into an endowment. We created a foundation, and we are giving loans to people with disabilities from about $300 to about $15,000. The maximum amount we load is if you want to make your house accessible or if you make your car accessible. These are some of the things that we are doing. A lot of people with disabilities now, they know about assistive technology. Before they didn't know about it. But there's an African saying which says, you don't miss the cousin that you don't know. So what they didn't know about assistive, they didn't miss it, but now that they know about it, they want to use it. And somebody in the morning session was talking about foundations. We have about $600,000, and we gave so far about 100. If we get most about $1 million or $500,000, most probably we would have served so many. Even with this low interest rate that we give, a lot of people cannot afford it. And people come to me and say, I cannot, but I need it. And we don't have the money that we have. By statute, it's a law. And we cannot give anything for free. But if we get a little bit money on the side, and I'm saying this because there is another African saying, to the smart people give them a hint. For those who are not so smart, tell them directly. So I'm giving you a hint that if we get a little money, and if you get into the Senate, and if appropriate, we can serve many, many people. So this is what we do. And with that, I want to say, welcome. You will be live streamed, and the morning session was viewed by about 220 individuals, and most probably will be viewed by more, by that number or equal. So, welcome. Let the discussion start.
Okay. Just a quick introduction as to what's going to happen. A couple of weeks ago, members of the disability community got together, and I say disability community, there are a lot of people in here with disability, but nobody in here is disabled. So word to the wise. We got together via video conferencing on St. Thomas and St. Croix and came up with 22 questions that are of interest to and affecting and concern for people in the disability community. Those 22 questions, we have a box somewhere with the question number, with the numbers in it, 22 numbers. Each of you is going to pull a number, and then someone in the audience is going to read the question to you, and you have 3 minutes to respond.
Two attorneys will be serving you this afternoon as moderators, Delise McLean and myself, Archie Jennings. She'll pass around the box. Each of you will take a number from the box, and that number will correlate with the question to be asked from the audience. And you will have, at the beginning, 3 minutes each to do your introduction and tell us why you're running for a position as a senator. We'll have questions, and at the end of the wrap, we'll have a wrap-up, and it'll either be 3 or 2 minutes, depending on how much time we take. One of the things I'll tell you, you have 3 minutes to answer the question, but you can also address other issues or questions or answers from other senators during your time. But we would appreciate your answering the question first. And I've been reminded to tell you to hold the mic close to your mouth because it's being live streamed so that it can be picked up and shown to the viewing audience. We may have to share some mics. I think that goes along with it, but that'll be the order of the day. Okay, well, Mr. Muhammad, we'd like for you to go ahead and get the ball rolling. Give us a brief introduction of yourself and why are you running for the Senate? Push it up. If you get the mic, make sure it's pushed up.
Good afternoon.
You may want to stand up so people can see you.
Good afternoon, moderator. Good afternoon, guests. Good afternoon, candidates for the 30th legislature. I'm Omodoso Amin Mohammed. I'm retired from the military with 30 years of service, both active and the National Guard here in the Virgin Islands. I'm also retired from the Virgin Island Police Academy and my last 10 years of the police was an instructor at the academy. My main purpose of running for the legislature is that I had 5 children graduate out of Idowu Kane High School, and I've met many parents, and I asked the question, did your children graduate with a skill? Most of them told me no. They said little to no skill. So what I have proposed, I'm going to propose if you vote for me in the legislature, is to have mandatory that all high schools in the Virgin Islands, with the help of the UBI staff, to come up with a full vocational tech professional high schools. That when all of our children graduate from other high school, each of them will not only have a diploma, they will have a certificate showing the skill that they have worked towards their 4 years in high school, and some of the professional subjects that we have, they could be equivalent to associate degree. That when our students graduate and they go out in the market for jobs, they already have 4 years of experience, and they could go anywhere in the United States, and also to go to bachelorate, to master's, to PhD in whatever skill they have started in the high school. Also here in the Virgin Islands, we have problems with WAPA, and I'm proposing that personnel that is 65 years and older that have a resident or rent will be exempt from paying LEA with the other benefits they have for the seniors. Also in the health department, we have seen a trend that they are privatizing all of the work they have there. They're taking out some of the programs out of the hospitals. If you go to the emergency room for help, and they are going to tell you to go someplace that you cannot go to most of the programs that we have in the hospital, they're telling you got to go to a private industry. And we need to correct that because there is a problem that we have here.
Warning.
If I'm elected to the 30th legislature, I will work to see that we have monies allocated for whatever program that we have here to better the quality of life here in the Virgin Islands. Also a pilot, and many of the individuals here ask me what about the $85,000 if I'm going to reduce the money? I tell them no. I say my plan is when you elect me, I would have 2 students from each high school a year, 2 students from a high school a year. I would pay from out of my income their tuition to get their pilot certificate here in the Virgin Islands.
Time.
Thank you very much.
Candidate Amy.
Good afternoon. Platform colleagues, good afternoon. Hope our campaign going good. Keep up the faith. Okay, it's a long journey. Thanks for stepping up to the plate to help save this Virgin Islands. My name is Neville Champion. I'm number 11 on the ballot. The purpose I'm running for Senate for the 30th legislature is to bring back home to the young generation. Okay? Most of the people in the Virgin Islands, the younger generation, they have given up. Some of them say they're not voting. Okay, the older generation is controlling the system and they have no hope. They basically want to leave the island. I want to show them that they have hope. You have to wake up in the morning and go to fight. You can't stand in the corner and think things will come to you. You have to fight, and that's what I'm doing. I'm here showing the young people that we're going to make a change in the 30th legislature if Neville Champion Amy is elected. I'm a 1989 graduate of St.Thomas High School with a BA in computer science from St.Thomas University. I'm presently working at the Raffler Whitley Skill Center, where I've been employed for the past 18 years. If I'm elected as a senator, like Mr. Mohammed will say, I'm going to say basically the same thing. I want to bridge the gap between academic and forget. Okay, in all our kids could be academically inclined. Some of them go with the hand, okay? So we need to get a vocat center, the skill center, going up to par with plumbing, carpentry, mechanics, and more skills for our youths, our younger people to learn something if they did not have a high school degree. My daughter have Down syndrome. I know the challenge of this disability act. You know, every day is a problem with Medicaid, with education, dealing with her. But she's learning a lot, and she's learning, and we have before to different places in the States, but I wanted to live in St. Thomas. I'm a Virgin Elder, I don't want to go to Boston. Basically, she's going to stay, and we're going to struggle for her. Also, when I started working in education, I started teaching special ed or physically challenged kids at the Crime with the computers. And in 1995, I worked at the Resource Center for Disabled for 2 years, teaching kids to use the Braille and the computer system. I'm very up to date with the challenge and a lot of your problem with disabilities. I know for the past senators, they worry about crime and other things. But I know the police are the backbone of disability, sports, and youth. If champions elected as a senator, they will be first on the agenda if I'm elected. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Candidate Barsham.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. Let me try out what I just learned at lunch. That's a lot of fun. I hear that you can take a course and you can learn how to do signing. And oh, thank you. Yes, I think that sounds like a lot of fun to learn how to sign. I'm Craig Barsugar, your Senator at Large. I have served 3 terms, and one of the fun parts about doing this job has been coming to this conference. Many forums are times when you feel like there's gotcha moments where the questioners are trying to trip you up. What I've noticed about your forum is that you educate us, your lawmakers or future lawmakers, and I very much appreciate that, because we learn about what your issues are, and then when we go into the legislature, we can work on those issues. And in fact, some of the things that I've learned in past years, I've put into practice. I have one person on my staff who has a disability, and I made a pledge to you to make sure that I looked for someone who could do a job who had a disability. Another thing is that we had a big victory for seniors on St. John who had their dial-a-ride cut, and I'll tell you later on during a question on transportation just how we did that, because I know advocacy is important to you. I'd also like to say that my colleague, Senator Jeanette Millen Young, also was there for the people of St. John when their dial-a-ride was going to be cut. And we just had to make a commitment. There's only a certain amount of money over here, and there's a certain amount of things that we want, and our job is to make those difficult decisions of how to allocate the limited money to the essentially infinite things that need to be done. I have a very enthusiastic feeling going into this next term because you, the voters, have a chance to choose 5 new people. We have 5 people not returning. And I'm sensing a new wind blowing, a fresh start. There are some candidates who are putting themselves out here who are hopefully going to be able to get down to problem solving in a way that we did not do in this last legislature. I'm sure all of you know that there was $6.9 million found to be misspent by a recent audit by the local Inspector General working in conjunction with the Inspector General of the Department of the Interior. That's very embarrassing for those of us who are in the legislature now, because we want to be part of an institution that has a noble purpose and actually solves problems. So first and foremost, if there's one thing that you can associate with me and my candidacy is I commit to you to make sure that this next legislature is transparent. And what that means is that we won't be wasting our time with how we're spending money. We'll do it, we'll account for it, we'll put it on a website where you can see how much we're spending. And you can judge us on how well we're solving problems. Anyone here having trouble with their WAPA bill? That's a problem we need to solve. We can't be fooling around with issues like transparency. You know, a lot of that is so-called theater or drama. You don't want to know how we're fooling around with money. You want to know how we're zeroing in on a solution that will bring your WAPA bill down out of the stratosphere, so you don't have to decide between putting food on the table or paying your WAPA bill. The crime issue. People in the Virgin Islands are seeing rising crime and they're afraid. Over on St. Croix, we're seeing a terrible shift in the economy with the departure of Hovensa. And we need to work on that to fix it. So these are the real things we'll do once we get transparency in order. I'm number one on the ballot, Craig Barshinger. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Jody Hodge, number 37 on the ballot. The reason I am running for Senate is because I saw that there is poor representation right now in the territory. I truly believe that we are not the ones, the Senate is not the ones to have all the answers and solutions, but that we need to listen to the people and implement their solutions and have new ideas and new ways and new approaches of how we solve the problems today. I don't think that we have to get caught before we could decide to do the right thing. I believe that we need to empower the people of Virgin Islands to come together, to everybody take a stance and fight for a better government. An idea I have for the University of Virgin Islands to have online classes so that people with disabilities could have at a slower rate time to complete their assignments, because it could be very competitive in the college setting. I am presently an electrical engineer at WAPA, and I know that LEAC is a big issue, but if we're going to stay on oil, it's not going to go anywhere. It costs a lot of money. The government does not have the budget to pay for the cost of fuel. So there are alternatives that we need to consider, such as renewable energies, and we need to stop taking our time, diddle-dadding in these alternatives. Thank you. I'm number 37 on the ballot.
Good afternoon to all, my fellow panelists, and to all who are listening and viewing. My name is Jeanette Millen-Young, and I'm currently serving you as a senator in the 29th legislature. By now, you've probably gotten to know me, but I still would like to remind you about how I've come to be. I have gone to school most of my life here in the Virgin Islands, and I graduated from St. Peter and Paul Catholic School. I went on to a Jesuit school, Loyola University in New Orleans, Louisiana. My background is so funny that I ended up being the education chair, because my background, my grandmother and aunts and a whole lot of family members are teachers. So I have enjoyed the opportunity to serve here as your education chair, and I have to remind you that one of the important things that we've done, and again, he pointed me out, and I have to point him out, Senator Barshinger has been along with me to all the schools in the territory, and we have done not just a regular inspection like the Board of Education would do, because that's another thing I have to do. I have to explain to people the difference between what by statute a Senate Oversight Committee does, what the Department of Education does, and what the Board of Education does, because oftentimes persons expect the Senate to do everything and that we're super commissioners, but we have a job to do, and that's to pass laws and to decide on a budget. So by visiting the schools, what we did was try to figure out what the schools needed. And in this past budget that we passed recently for the fiscal year 2013, we've included millions more dollars than have ever been included for education. Not just the Department of Education, but for vocational programs, for maintenance of the schools, etc. But I also wanted to let you know that in visiting the schools, we also noticed how our children are cared for in special education. So that is something that is in the utmost top of my mind, making sure that your children are well taken care of in special education. Voices that count, your voices have counted, because we've had several pieces of legislation this past legislature for your benefits, such as visitability. I always used to say visibility, but visitability, in that we have given credits for you upgrading your homes and being able to accommodate those with disabilities, or your family members, etc. We also reviewed language in the code which was pretty much offensive, using the word retarded, and we have removed that word. And if people might think, well, you just removed a simple term, and we did more than that in that legislation, but what was really important about that legislation is that its words do hurt. So when people say sticks and stones do not hurt, words hurt as well, and we were able to remove that. And again, because voices like yours count, I'm here once again. I'm very happy to be here to hear your questions and be able to answer them and put them to work in the 30th legislature. My number is number 9 on the November 6th ballot, and I'm very, very happy to be here with you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean A. Georges. I'm number 600 ballot, and I have a simple reason for wanting to become your senator. I've been part of this community, which I mean the University of the Virgin Islands, for 10 years now, and I've watched us struggle the same way the people of the Virgin Islands have been with our economic state. We get funded by the legislature, and just like all the other commissions and all the other committees, we're cut regularly, and we still have to make do. Despite our challenges, we've never lost sight in taking care of our disabled students, faculty, and staff at the university. We are, I think, the leading edge on adjusting our buildings, adjusting our facilities to ensure that people with disabilities are not disabled in our atmosphere. We've made sure we've added elevators in all of our old buildings, and all our new buildings have been retrofit to ensure ADA compliance. As a university that's federally funded as well, we know the importance of federal dollars, and we know the importance that the American with Disabilities Act has for us. We will continue to strive that way, and we need to take that beyond the university. We have a lot of historic buildings in which people with disability cannot attend or not get into, and there's no accommodation for that. We have people in Bordeaux who cannot get transportation because buses don't run on the weekends. We don't have any buses that are retrofitted. They have to get dial a ride, which is nice, but when you treat someone as they're disabled, they feel disabled. They just want the opportunity as anyone else. They want the opportunity to be a part of the community, a functioning part of the community, and we need to give them that opportunity. I would like to thank you for your time. I'd like to thank UVIU said, as they continue to be the forefront leader in advocating for Virgin Islands with disabilities. I'd like to thank you once again. My name is Sean A. Georges. I'm number 6 on your back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Clifford Graham. I'm number 7 on the ballot. I'm a product of the Virgin Islands, born and raised, and went to public high school here, graduated from the Ivani de Rechem High School. From there, I continued my education first here at the University of the Virgin Islands, and then transferred to Hampton University, where I graduated. Went to Detroit to work and came back and eventually working my way to the Virgin Island Housing Finance Authority, where I became the executive director for 10 years. Under the Affordable Housing Program, we're well aware with building homes to accommodate persons with disabilities. And if you ask me, do we go far enough in doing a good job to accommodate the disability? We do not. The law provides that 5% of every unit that is built must be built to accommodate persons with disabilities. However, it becomes a problem for you to traverse your community and visit other people that may live upstairs or on the lower level, because the law does not provide that the entire area have to be accommodated for a person with disabilities. So we can do a lot more to address these issues. With respect to my job at Housing Finance Authority, one of the funds that we had control of was the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Home Fund. People with disabilities, persons with disabilities that may have low income, can apply to the Housing Finance Authority for home funds to retrofit their homes. In fact, the money can be given as a grant if your income is that low, or a low interest rate as low as 1% or lower than that, to accommodate persons to retrofit your homes and everything. Why did I decide to run for the legislature? As a product of the Virgin Islands, I got tired of sitting back and continuously seeing the islands taken advantage of. Yes, we have some excellent senators in the legislature, but I think we can do better. The opportunity came that I decided to sacrifice myself. I don't like public life. I like being in private life. However, I wanted to offer myself as a candidate so we can get out there and make the tough decision to turn the Virgin Islands around. One of the things that I did while I headed the Housing Finance Authority was turn around an agency that was on the brink of bankruptcy, and within 2 years we turned it back into an agency that was making money again. And these are some of the skill set and experience that I will bring to the table if fortunate to be elected by you. Again, my name is Clifford Graham, number 7 on the ballot, and thank you UVI for holding this forum.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Good afternoon, fellow Virgin Islanders. I made this territory my home over 50 years ago. I've learned vocational work, started with WAPA, moved on to the States and went to higher studies. On my return, I recognized that we're short of ideas for job creation that lack income, and then bear down on the different families. And my simple idea for going into the wanting to go into the legislature is to assist the other meaningful senators, help create jobs and pass that burden on to the private sector and free the government from hiring unnecessary people, especially at election time. We are lacking major institution. We don't have an airline of our own. We don't have a bank here. The money goes out in suitcases, and lots more. I am with an organization called the Citizens Movement, which is a great group, started by none other than the great Governor Cyril E. King, who was a champion at that time, rest his soul. Hopefully, our people can get elected and make his birthday a holiday, starting next year, the 7th of April. My number is number 16 on the ballot. And I hope you'll give all the Citizens Movement people the opportunity. But this is the change we want. Thank you. Charles Worth Halstead. I have papers for you. Stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa M. Williams. I'm number 21 on your ballot. I'm thankful to be here. It's an honor to be here at UVI and with my fellow aspirants and senators. I am running because I grew up here. I have a passion for these islands and I have a passion for our people. I want to see us succeed. I want to see us move forward, to use a lot of the technology that's now available to us to improve our infrastructure and certain industries. And I want to offer those solutions and that leadership. I believe we have a void of leadership in a lot of areas, and I want to fill that void with integrity, with creative solutions so that we all can move forward.
Thank you, Senator.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Clarence Payne, number 35 on the ballot, running as a Democrat. It's also a good time having President Obama getting ready to take the helm again. So being a Democrat is a good thing right about now. I work at the Department of Human Services. I have a master's degree in clinical social work, and I have been working in the field of disabilities since 1988. So I'm still young and handsome, as you can tell, so relax on that. Have to break the monotony a little bit there. This is serious, you know. So, but my specialty is really with young people, mostly those with conduct disorders that finds themselves at times in the criminal element, you know, engaging in many of the most heinous acts that our senior citizens can't even fathom, that 3 generations later, our young people would be so out of control. You know, so I've spent a lot of years working and fully committed to the field of human services. Once I am elected, I plan to continue my work with the various agencies in the community that work with those people with disabilities, those in special ed, those that come to Clear Blue Skies, those that go to Family Resource Center, all the agencies in the community that reach out and go beyond the call of duty. Many of them with no money, many times with no money, just committed people recognizing that if I am going to be a better Virgin Islander, I have to go beyond the call of duty oftentimes when there's no money or stipend associated with my conviction to help the least of thee. My name is Clarence Payne, number 35 on the ballot, and I'm looking forward to today's discussion.
Don't sit down.
Don't sit down. Okay.
What number do you have?
Which number you want? Number 8.
Number 8.
Number 8.
That's Trisha Stanton has a question.
Good afternoon to the panel. My question is, what ideas would you bring to the Senate to ensure that today's students with disabilities are better prepared to become tomorrow's leaders and innovators in a global economy?
Excellent question, thank you. One of the things that Dr. Hatis talked about was inclusion. And, you know, being a former football coach and having the opportunity to work with a variety of people over the years, one of the things that motivate people is participation, involvement, support. And I think that when you have a program or you have an education system set up, we have to expect more. If you expect less, you get less. And if you have a particular disability, let us provide the tools necessary. Let us provide the environment necessary so learning can take place. You know, growing up in Bovoni, you know, we had children and we had players that might have had some limitations, but we didn't treat them as such. We invited you to play and participate, and we expect you to perform. Because if you don't perform, we will lose, and you have a problem going home on the school bus later. We're winning. That's the attitude you have to have. Expect more, encourage, give, and another part that's very important is giving families the resources necessary, you know, to support their disabled person. Putting them in a home, that's not an option in today's society. We don't have the resources. So I think it's very important to recognize support is extremely important in the field of working people with disabilities. Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Mr. Mohammed. Let's try it a little different today. What number do you have?
Number 7.
Number 7? Mr. Fides?
Good afternoon. As a legislator, what would your position be on, and what would you propose to do about economic development companies that have promised to support programs for people with disabilities but don't?
We should have penalties for those individuals that economic development who's getting 100% tax exemption in many areas, 90% tax exemption in many areas, to come up to their product in bringing about a change for the disabled here in the Virgin Islands. If we have penalties put in place for these individual companies that are here in the Virgin Islands, I think that the rest of those who's coming here to get those EDCs and benefit will say, well, we have to work in the interest of the people of the Virgin Islands. There are many problems here with those companies. And before the senators take the intestinal fortitude to go after them to make sure they do what they're supposed to do, they more rather go after the weak. And that is the workers of the Virgin Islands to do whatever they got to do. As a legislator, I will revisit the EDC benefits, and I will make sure that if those laws that exist, if not all exist, I will implement the laws, I will propose the laws, and look for a change so that those individual companies will work in the interests of the disabled here in the Virgin Islands.
Thank you, candidate. Candidate Williams, what number do you have?
I have number 21, which is my ballot number.
That's Ms. Benjamin.
Good afternoon, everyone. What will you do as a legislator to help raise public awareness that it is unlawful to discriminate against persons with disabilities?
Excellent question. I do believe that we need public service announcements that we should finance public service announcements to go on TV and radio to remind employers about the need for sensitivity for those with disabilities. So I would definitely be an advocate for PSAs and training. I used to be the training manager at Marriott Frenchman's Reef, and I'm a strong advocate for training within the employers and employment. And so that's what I would do, is to advocate for that.
Okay, thank you. Candidate A, your number?
Number 3.
That's Mr. Tory.
Thank you, good afternoon. If elected, what strategic step would you take for dealing with individuals with disabilities in the territory relative to employment, health, and housing?
Very good question. Employment, we'll start with employment first. That's a very touchy matter. To employ somebody that was disabled, a company may be kind of scared because they don't want to put that person to maybe die on the job site. So what I will do, I will basically have to resource some of the companies and the laws dealing with disabled and employing people with disability. Because I know where I work in Texas when we were in school, they didn't want to hire no disabled person because they didn't want an accident happen on their job site. I don't know what the laws is in the Virgin Islands, but I will resource those laws. Basically, housing. I feel everybody in the Virgin Islands have back with housing, even the disabled. Okay, I will make sure if elected, the housing facilities for disabled have all the necessary walkways, disabled bathroom, whatever you need to make your life comfortable in the Virgin Islands. I will make sure that is available for a disabled person. Also, I will bridge the gap between the hospital and the doctors, because what I notice, a lot of doctors don't take Medicare and different insurance for disability. So we will try to get the numbers up, try to get more doctors to work with Medicare. So I feel the more people that the doctors, patients, they get, the lower the prices, the cost will be to each individual. Okay? If I'm elected, I make sure those things get in place. And before I go, I saw one of my students, Joseph, right there. I was my classmate, so my students back at the VI Resource Center. I taught a computer using the Braille. My name is Champy. Never lay me. Number 11 on the ballot. Don't forget me. Thanks.
Mr. Halsey, the number you have, sir?
Number 12.
Number 12. That's Ms. Mathias.
In your career, have you ever hired or advocated for the hiring of anyone with a disability? If yes, please discuss. If no, discuss why
not. Did you hear the question?
Not quite.
Okay, in your career, have you ever hired or advocated for the hiring of anyone with a disability? If yes, please discuss. If no, please discuss why not.
The answer is yes. I had a small business here in St. Thomas, up the Garden Street area, and the Labor Department has sent 2 or 3, I believe 3 people from the department to train to fix shoes. I'm a shoe repairman too, beside other things. That's it.
The Senator Boxer.
Number 6.
Ms. Benjamin again.
Are you in favor of legislation that will target entry-level jobs, requiring a certain number of those entry-level jobs be retained for people with disabilities? If yes, why? And if no, why not?
I haven't seen that in a bill format. And my impression is that we're already ready to do something more than, you say entry-level jobs for persons with disabilities. The way I look at it is that everyone is differently abled. Everyone in this room is disabled compared to Usain Bolt. I mean, those of us who think we can run, compared to him, we are snails. But there may be 25 people in this room who can type on a computer 5 times as fast as Usain Bolt. We're all differently abled. There's no one in this room who can't do a job. And my vision for the Virgin Islands is not only a vigorous job market where everyone has a job, but where people have jobs that they enjoy. And that's one of the big weaknesses of our government workforce right now, is that we don't expect to enjoy our jobs. Some of us, especially those who got their jobs a long time ago when the rules were different, they cling to their job for 30 years, whether they're miserable or happy. They never move, they never grow, they never transfer, and then they retire. Young people today are expecting so much more. So my answer to your question is that if you have a specific idea for a bill that would target entry-level jobs, I would look at it and we could put it through the committee process. But I'm concerned because I think of disabled persons as having access to all levels of employment. A person who can't walk, they might be a fabulous manager because a manager holds in their mind what's supposed to happen in an organization and make sure. So maybe I should ask a little more. Maybe I'm not understanding your question. Would you like to elaborate at all?
I can add something to that. Basically, within the context of the disability community, they have an unemployment rate of like 50%. So they're not, persons with disabilities are not incorporated into the workforce at the same rate as a person with an ability. So therefore, that's why the issue regarding the focus is on employment, because they're persons with disability with qualified skills are unemployed not only in this community, but across the United States. So that's why the focus is, what would you do to assist those persons who are qualified to get over some of the stigma, so to speak, of them not being able to perform as a person with an ability.
All right. Well, Archie, you're pointing out that we really have to do some affirmative action. And affirmative action was a huge success in the United States in getting minority persons into great jobs. And I like to think that we're beyond that, but maybe we're not. We have to do it. I personally have hired a person with a disability in my office, and that person is one of my best workers. And we don't even talk about disabilities. We all just do our jobs. But I'm in favor of the idea. I would just like to not just limit it to entry-level jobs, because I think that probably an entry-level job means all you know how to do is show up on time and go home on time. I'm talking about jobs like managerial position, which requires thinking. And you may have a bad leg, but you may be a great thinker, a great organizer, a great fighter, whatever. So I'm in favor of the idea, and I'd like to see you flesh that idea out, and perhaps we can bring that to legislation in the 30th legislature together. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Clifford Graham, I think I had 6, but they turned it into a 9.
So you're going to 6 for 9, huh? Okay. 6 is Miss.
So number 9.
Number 9? Okay. That's Miss Carter. You're up.
Okay. If elected to the 30th legislature, how would you ensure that the workings of the legislature is used to benefit people of disabilities and their family?
Excellent question. Thanks for the opportunity. If elected senator in the 30th legislature, how would I make the legislature a benefit to persons with disabilities and their families, if I understand correctly? We have to have inclusion in everything that is done. If any bill or anything that's being considered, it's a whole gamut of people that you have to invite and take testimony on. I personally would ensure, like as if we did with affordable housing, we ensure that X amount of veterans came out and were able to take part in the affordable housing. I would ensure that any hearings or anything that go forward, we have the ability to have the voice of the person with disability involved in it. I would even go further and be an advocate to ensure that we look at employment for persons with disability. You may not be able to walk, as Senator Bassinger said, but you may be a great person in doing PowerPoint presentation or even doing graphic artists and stuff like that. You really don't need to have an ability to walk about to be a graphic artist. So we gotta look at incorporating everyone and create an atmosphere so everyone can be successful here in the Virgin Islands, and it doesn't matter of what nature your disability is. We gotta find a way to incorporate you into everything that is done every day. As a personal side, I know my sister teaches gifted education in Virginia, and a lot of times the person with super bright, we discard them as, oh, they're just crazy, and because their mind think at a different level than what we normally think on. And instead of fostering that ability, we pretty much put them on the side and say, oh, he's just crazy, whatever. But a lot of times, we just need to facilitate that thinking and take it to the next level. So it's all about inclusion and having people be included in everything that you do.
Thank you, President. Number 4, Mr. George.
Good afternoon. After having gained skills needed for employment, people with disabilities still often experience discrimination from would-be employers. What would you do to ensure that those of us that are work-ready are able to secure jobs?
Yeah, I agree with the affirmative action for people with disabilities and mental illnesses. It should have a minimum amount of people that you should employ. they would find jobs for these positions, whether it's filing, receptionists. They would allocate jobs for these people. For instance, you know, there are different places. Say if we don't have, for instance, I was saying like at WAPA, not all buildings are accessible, but you may put those jobs of people with disabilities on the first floor. We make them easily accessible. So there are ways to shift things around by requiring more from companies. And I also believe that we need to do better communication, whereas people don't know the law and they discriminate. So they need to be able to post it online, send notifications through the mail, commercials, whatever means necessary to educate everybody about not discriminating against the elderly, the disabled and the mentally ill.
Thank you, Candy.
I have number 13.
Number 13?
Lucky 13. Hi, Friday.
Oh, we got two standing up. I got 13. All right.
Go ahead. Okay. With specific examples, how do you plan on making a difference in the lives of individuals with disabilities in the VI community?
Well, I've had that experience already with my late aunt who was disabled, and we had a lot of challenges faced in terms of retrofitting the house, making sure she had access to the entire house, and it was a pretty expensive venture. Hearing Dr. Hapti speak about the opportunity to get loans would be easy on a lot of families. So I would support those kind of incentives and actually allocate monies toward ensuring that more people have that opportunity to get those loans to be able to retrofit their homes, their vehicles, and also make sure that the challenged are not too challenged and the disabled are not disabled in their own homes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown. Again.
20. Okay, good afternoon again. I don't think I said it earlier, but recently a TV2 report featured a young boy on St. Thomas being refused service by a taxi because of his service dog. As a legislature, how would you address and rectify such discriminatory practices?
Thank you for the question. I believe I remember hearing about it, but I'm not very clear as to why the young man was denied access. I believe that it is a law that if someone needs a guide dog to enter a public facility, which the bus is a public facility, that bus driver should have allowed the young man to get onto the bus. So again, I don't recall the story, but I do know that it is the law. So I don't think there will be much more for me to do. Am I incorrect on that?
It was the issue regarding a taxi man, one of the public dollar vans, and he tried to, of course, enter the bus, and the taxi driver stopped, gave him saying, "Oh, you can't ride," and then right in front of the camera drove off in front of him. Oddly enough, it's the same thing we did with the Flytran buses back in 1997, where we stopped in front of the hospital. The bus driver looked at somebody with a wheelchair and said, "You can't ride." But anyhow, the issue really is concerning Vitran is now basically becoming ADA compliant. These taxis, safari taxis, are using the Vitran bus stops. They have medallions, monitored by the Taxi Cab Commission, and whether or not they too should comply with the federal law and be ADA compliant.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the further explanation on that, and it's true. If they are using our public roads and they are filling in that void of our public transportation as well, I think it's an easy fix to introduce legislation to mandate that the same way that our public transportation vehicles have to accept them, that these safaris accept them as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brown. Ms. Payne.
Number 11.
Is Ms. Stephanie Brown?
Good afternoon. Please give us some examples of experiences that you have that would help to advance or advocate for people with disabilities.
Excellent question, Stephanie. Excellent. I think that for my last 22 years of working in the field of social work has given me not just the theories that we had to learn in the formal classroom settings, but to actually be a probation officer, to be a social worker, a case manager, a district manager of within any human services has given me so many years of experience to advocate for the least of thee and those with disabilities. You know, oftentimes you find that the public just needs information and just need to know that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, there's somebody in the background that will take you to court, will file a lawsuit, and will follow through. And I think that is very, very important as an advocate and as a case manager. They just need information. I believe our community is such that, and you know, sometimes lawsuits are necessary, but information, a strong advocate, a strong support system, it could it could stop that from happening, and you can get to the business of serving the public, which is really what we should be doing as public servants in the Virgin Islands. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. I've been requested because of the streaming to follow the same order, so Ms. Williams will be next. What number do you have?
Number 22.
22?
There's a need to assist students with disabilities to transition from high school to college or to work. What would you suggest in doing that? Thank you.
Good question. I think with the technology, the advances in technology that we have today, it is easier to help with that transition from high school to employment or college. And I think that we as legislators have to be that advocate, that liaison to help the businesses to prepare for people with disabilities in terms of identifying different jobs that are easy, entry-level jobs that are easy for them to transition into and grow into, as Senator Barshinger was saying, manager positions and build a career. So I would say that technology definitely has to be one of the primary ways that we prepare our students to do that.
Thank you, Candidate. Candidate Halsted, what number do you have? 16. Number 16. Ms. Brown again.
Good afternoon again. Please tell us about your experience, if any, with the disability community and what you would do to help ensure that persons with disabilities in the VI live happy, productive, and inclusive lives.
No personal experience, however, I believe Mr. Bassinger made it clear that we need what you call affirmative action to help those people move ahead in comfort. Thank you.
Number 18.
18. Mr. George.
Good afternoon. What proactive steps will you take as a legislator to get more people with disabilities to become employed?
Excellent question. And being here today was an eye-opener as well for me to hear that the unemployment among disabilities is at 50%. And I think we really need to take a drastic look at that and maybe pass measures to ensure that people really look out with persons with disability. A lot of time people just get scared when they hear that word disability, but persons with disabilities can be productive citizens in our economy, productive workers. A lot of time you may see a person that does not have a good ability to walk and park in a ADA space, and they'll get out and you can definitely see that they can't walk. But there are other people with other disabilities that can also get that certificate and park there. Maybe they walk too far, they have a disability, and they get out of the car and they look like nothing is wrong with them. And we look at it and say, but you have a certificate or a pass to park in that spot, and you say, it's not fair, but you don't know what a person's disability is. Now, with respect to your question, I think what we need to do is moving forward is really look at maybe providing an incentive for businesses or government to hire a person with disability, whether it be after you pass a number of employees, you have to have X percentage of that employee being a person with disability. Help to train those people so they can move up the corporate ladder as well. We need to do more because you're a productive citizen in the Virgin Islands and you can contribute to the overall strength and wealth of the Virgin Islands. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, sir. Number one, Dita Cardi, number one on our list.
Make sure that I get this time. Okay. Okay, good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
What is your strongest asset? And if elected, how would you be able to use that asset to benefit people with disabilities?
Well, in terms of that, my strongest asset is being a member of employee at the University of the Virgin Islands, in which the IU said, and also all the projects that we've had here, in which target and providing accessibility for people with disabilities is very high on our ladder in terms of providing service. I think we would take some of these measures and take it into the communities, and not only St. Thomas, we're talking St. John, St. Croix, and of course Water Island, because that is one of ours as well. So I would use the resources and the information that I gathered here as a member of the UVI community to take it to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, candidate number 10. That's Ms. Smith, Joseph. Okay, you want to take it, Ms. Do you have a question?
Thank you. Good afternoon again. Please discuss any specific legislation that you have introduced or would introduce that would be beneficial to the DD community in the territory. Excuse me?
To what?
Beneficial to the DD community in the territory.
And disabled person. So the question was, what specific legislation that you have introduced or would introduce that would be beneficial to the development of the disabled community in the territory?
Well, in my introduction, thank you for the question. In my introduction, I did refer to legislation that we did introduce in this 29th legislature for that very specific purpose, especially in the schools. It seems like if we understood that you will want to be inclusive and you want to do everything that you can possibly do to make everyone in the school population comfortable, but it becomes an oversight, and unfortunately you have to legislate that. And so we did that The act number does not come directly in mind, but we have addressed that with the schools, and I believe Dr. Haptis came all the way over to St. Croix to testify before my committee on education. It also was included the whole discussion that I spoke about, deleting retarded from legislation. It was a whole reform act bill that came before the legislature.
It's called Rose's Law, the federal, where they removed the term mentally retarded throughout the whole federal legislation, and the Virgin Islands.
Exactly. So what we did was we brought the Virgin Islands laws in compliance with the federal laws. So again, voices that count, it came directly from you. We acted on it in the Committee of Education, Youth and Culture, and I'm happy to be able to report that we have been serving your needs, at least in these last year and 10 months. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you, Senator. Ms. Hodge? Number 5, Mr. Satori.
Would you support legislation that requires employers to hire a certain percentage of people with disabilities? If yes, please discuss why. If no, please discuss why not.
I think that's critical because as we're saying, I do support a program like that. They do it with blacks. Right now in the States there's a program for women who are in technical fields. Apparently the numbers are lower. They don't get hired as much even though they're qualified. And I believe that not only just allowing employers, enabling them to hire people or requiring them to do that, but we must train and help the people who have this extra challenge. We have to help them get to that level. We can't expect them to do it on their own. And I want to see my tax dollars go towards the people who really need it. I would feel and be a better and proud Virgin Islander if I could see that we do more for the disabled and the mentally ill. So, thank you.
Head Marshall. Number 2 is Ms. Satori again.
If re-elected, what would you put in place in the legislature to ensure that when employment issues for the territory are discussed and deliberated on, the issues, concerns, and voices of those who have disabilities and their families are not forgotten? So.
Thank you for that question. I think we've learned here, through the back and forth of the questions and the answers, that we need to have an affirmative action. What I learned today was that the number of disabled people who seek employment and are employed is significantly lower than the number of disabled people who want to be employed. We've seen on the television recently a very vigorous campaign to get people to hire seniors, people who are in the retirement age. And I think it's very effective, that advertising campaign. So it strikes me that we could do something similar to that to really highlight the advantages of hiring a person who has a disability. The fear factor has been discussed, the stigma has been discussed. And I personally know that all of those things are really just figments of the imagination. Because when I've worked with people who have a disability somewhere, they always shine somewhere else. As I said earlier, we are all disabled and wonderfully able in other fields. So I think that getting that idea out there. How we go about it is we have to craft legislation that isn't unduly intrusive, meaning we don't want to cramp the style of the employer, but we want them to shift and maybe even push them off their comfort zone. Because a lot of people want to just hire the same kind of people they've always been hiring. And what we're saying now is we've got a workforce which is unfairly discriminated against. They're not getting the jobs in the numbers that they should be. So I would propose that we actually have an affirmative action bill whose purpose is to encourage through a series of incentives. They could be financial incentives, perhaps a small rebate in the amount of tax they pay for 1 year after they hire a disabled person. Just enough to say, we see you, As an employer, we recognize that you're going out of your way to accommodate our disabled persons, and we're going to give you a little bit of a recognition in your pocketbook. So that's what the idea that's coming to me now, but I have a feeling that I need to work with you more on this idea and flesh it out so that we can have some legislation that will actually put the numbers in line with what they should be. We should have no group of persons who wish to be employed who is underemployed in the territory. We should always attempt to have, there'll always be 5 to 10% unemployment in various fields, but if we have something like 50%, that's way too high, and we'll have to fix it. I thank you very much. I'm Craig Barshinger, number 1 on your ballot.
Senator, you were talking about crafting something. Actually, I can give you 2 quick fixes. I think I always sent this letter for every legislature. You have a civil rights law in the Virgin Islands. It does not include persons with disabilities as one of the categories. And number 2, you can always make that civil rights law have a private right of enforcement. Because right now you leave enforcement to the Civil Rights Commission for all those categories. And as we've found out just recently how dysfunctional the Civil Rights Commission is, that at the present time, 2 quick fixes, 2 simple sentences, and you got a statute that's ready to go and put in place, and people can start activating it right away.
All right, thank you for that. We'll take a look at that.
Candidate Amy?
17.
Ms. Tricia Samuel?
Good afternoon to the panel again. Most students who are suspended or dismissed from school are students with disability. Most of them are misbehaving in class because they cannot do the reading and math. In their minds, it is better to be bad than to look incompetent. What, if anything, are you prepared to do to help improve education outcomes for students with disabilities?
As an educator, like I said earlier, I taught 7th and 8th graders at Cancun School, and I taught students with special ed. And that situation we just spoke about came up many times. You know, the students rather be disrupted than be looking like they can't learn. They rather disrupt the class. And most of the time we to put them out because I was never trained to deal with special educated children. So I just tell them go out and they go to the Spillway. But if I'm elected, basically I feel I need to find a school just for disabled kids. Okay, that's what I personally feel, because right now in the Virgin Islands we don't have the to have them in. Right now we have them at Gladysabam and Shatamali. We don't have the amount of trainers to deal with all the kids, them separating them from different places. And most of the time, you know, if you have the people that train like me, you put them in my computer class, and I can't deal with the disability. You know, they're going to be put out of the class, and then they're put out in a system. They got to go to the next class. Eventually, they'll be out of the school. So, my thing in that, I would try to get a school for disabled kids that will help train them in their different disabilities. From sitting here for the last hour, I'm very amazed what's going on here. I just saw the lady open a folder and read something on a brill, and she got up and she read a question over here with the sign language. I want to congratulate all the trainers that is training these individuals. You are doing a great job. Thank you. Never leave me number 11 on the ballot.
Unfortunately, your solution would make me go through a whole bunch of work because it would be an unconstitutional solution. The whole point of the Education Handicap Act and the IDEA Act was to include and not segregate persons with disabilities into what they call mainstream, into the community, so that just like the black-white segregation, why they did the act and they started that lawsuit in 1951 and 54 was bring those two cultures together so they can grow up together, be educated, and socialize together. That's what basically the movement of the disabled community is really a civil rights issue. So in that regard, just so you know, is that we want to go forward. That issue regarding inclusion and non-segregating of the students means that we have to look at other solutions other than the segregation. We've already been segregated. The laws made it So they come together, and now we have to work together to make it work.
I understand that perfectly. But being in Texas, I saw at school was just gifted for the blind, for the deaf, and those schools function very good. We are right now in St. Thomas, and from hearing the questions and having our data, what we have going on right now is not working. And we keep going the same way. We'll be here every day with a lot of problem with people talking about it takes a month to get money from Medicaid to send somebody to the States. We'll be in the same problem. We don't try and have a fix. We are trying to do the district, keep them in regular school, and the same thing we are calling all the time. They go to class, they can't function, and they'll be the same situation.
Well, actually,
I was trying to say we need a fix to it. We will continue doing the same thing and keep doing the same thing every year. We'll be here with the same problems. Thank you.
Okay, but if you have your IEP, most of the students are placed where they can be accommodated. If they need to be in a segregated classroom because of their disability, the law allows for that. But and that's why I said that's why it's called an individual education plan. So they have a customized diagnostic and put in where they can receive a meaningful education. Matter of fact, the IEPs, I wish, were for every student in the public school system, where everyone gets evaluated, everyone has a customized education plan. Those who can progress, don't get bored in class. I was one of those who got bored in class, was disrupted. You would have been sitting me out. I spent half my high school career in detention. And because of that issue, they have a way to customize that plan, customize for your daughter, customize so that it fits with the teacher's training and background in education, and customize, but only for the children with special needs after they're tested. But again, that's why I said, just so you know that it's not one or the other, it's both and that's really occurring within the public school system right now.
Okay, maybe I misunderstand the question a little bit, because I shot the body have you talk about kids with really disability. Because they have classes up high school just for segregated, just for those students. I have students in my class with disability. They give me a sheet, the special education teacher give me a sheet, and to tell me the special need, one-on-one, more graphics, more this and that. That they could deal with, but I was talking about kids that really disability, that is them in chairs, that can't function, that they try to put in classes with teachers like me, who's not specialized in that area. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, if the person is trained, I could deal with it, I have no problem. Thank you.
Right.
Number 11, the ballot never champion.
Okay.
Number 19.
There's no number 19, please?
The number 19.
Okay. What proactive steps will you take as a legislator to make sure people with disabilities are able to live independent lives?
Live independent life. First, as I say, that education is the key to everything. And if we have seen an individual that was born with a disability, some of them have never had the opportunity to go to school to learn a skill. And if we have the vocational tech and professional high school and emphasize on adult education, that everyone will be able to have an opportunity to get a skill. And those individuals that pass the school, the course, and are being given them a job, they'll be able to accumulate monies enough for them to go and get land or to build a home, and also to get assistance from the professionals that we have in the community to help them to ingress, regress from their homes and things like that. I also will be one that will also help in proposing laws that will assist some of the businesses that they'll be able to hire. And as a police instructor, we have had many individuals that came to the police academy with disabilities. And we went through doing the testing for them to come into the police. And we went through the test in the academy. And Many of the staff have said, well, they're not going to make it. But those individuals have shown us that they will make it, and they did make it, and they was employed, and some are still employed with the police department. And I see with the program, with the ADA that we have in place, they also should we have a fear of the right to sue. And I think that as a body in the Virgin Islands, we need to be strong in support of the disability here in the Virgin Islands.
At this time, we're going to entertain questions from the floor for the candidates.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming today and listening to all the questions and responding. I have one about in 2010, I think, we tried to get, first let me back up. Mental health is the issue that I deal with every day. Funding for mental health has never been a line item in the budget. There's funding for health, and whatever trickles down goes to mental health, and nothing trickles down. So what does that mean? Zip for mental health. Now I don't know if the mental health department has any funds, but our organization operates on practically no money, and I think we're doing a really great service for the community. Is it possible for a nonprofit organization to actually have a line item in your budget? That's my question. Before I sit down and ask for the answer, I'd like to make two comments. We talk about language, we talk about exchanging handicap for disabled. I would like to exchange. We had a discussion at our program one day. One of our members decided that they feel very uncomfortable and they do not like to be called the least of my brethren. They're not the least of anybody's anything. So the least of we need to take out of our language, and also the word crazy. That is also offensive, and I've heard it used in all three forums, yesterday and today. So let's just watch our language because our people are sensitive. Thank you very much.
I'm sure that some of my other colleagues can answer, but I'll make a quick answer. First, I'll tell you what you want to know, and then what you need to know. The answer is yes. The budget process allows for a non-governmental agency to receive funding, and it's called the miscellaneous budget. And if there were $100,000 put in there, you'd get $100,000 in theory. If there were $1 million in there, which would be a big appropriation, you'd get it. Many times these are in the order of $10,000 to $50,000. On St. Croix, for instance, there's an organization called 10,000 Helpers that doesn't deal directly with mental health, but they deal with homeless people. This is an organization I've followed for a long time. Now I'll tell you what you need to know. If you get a miscellaneous budget appropriation and you expect to actually receive that money, you ought to just hold your breath, because they're not going to give it to you. The budget process is so convoluted and non-transparent that even though you're awarded that, you get bounced back and forth between the legislature and the Office of Management and Budget. And it's almost cruel the way we do this, because we know darn well that you're never going to get your money. About a year and a half ago, my office made up a guide to getting your miscellaneous budget appropriation so you could know how to hound the OMB in order to actually get it. So I would not count on it, but I will tell you that I strongly support miscellaneous budget appropriations for any organization that can do the job for less money than the government can, which is almost always. Maybe candidate Payne can talk about that, but non-governmental agencies typically do the job for 1/3 of what a government agency would have. So I would be in favor of that, and I would like you to submit to the governor's office a proposal for next year to be included in the miscellaneous budget. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yes. Again, thank you for the question, and Senator Washington is correct. what we do in the legislature, and some people refer to it as pet projects, and they're not pet projects. That is us trying to make sure that whoever we identify to receive the funding will receive the funding. I'm associated with the Nana Baby Home, and what they have done for many years is go through the Department of Human Services. And it is the Department of Human Services that advocates to the OMB office. And so therefore, we don't really have that problem, Nana Baby Home. And that's even before I became a senator, so it has nothing to do with me being associated with it. But it really takes the organization going to an agency of government that needs the help, because trust me, they want your help. Okay? So thank you for the question.
Any other candidate? Yes.
Yes, and to elaborate on what you were saying in terms of no proper training or no knowledge of what it means to have mental disabilities, we face that every day at UVI when students come in, and it's been a forefront of the university landscape. But when our ADA compliance officer calls the high schools to speak to their counselors, they have no information for us, so we can better prepare to handle these students. When we find out, they normally are just filing papers, or they're not actually getting the opportunity to use their skills to help students in those situations. So we need to educate the the high school departments and everyone on the needs to understand what mental illness is and how to address it a lot better. So when they do reach to the university level, there is an easy transition. I think one of the questions spoke about the transition. We need to educate in that level first before we can make the transition part work. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Graham.
Good afternoon, Clifford Graham. I used to be on the Interagency Council on Homelessness, and mental health is a component of that Interagency Council on Homelessness. And it's a powerful organization. And I would, as a senator in the 30th legislature, I would try to empower the Interagency Council on Homelessness to get the funding that is needed to address the issues that they're supposed to address, which is homelessness, the mental illness, and all of those other illnesses that we have in this society. The Interagency Council on Homelessness has been around from, I guess, the second half of the Turnbull administration, and I think what I've seen is they do a lot of talking, but have not implemented because the funding was never put there to help them move forward and do what they have to do to cure the problems.
Okay, Senator Candidate Graham again. Thank you. We have one other question, but just to let you know, the streaming population now is up to 441.
Good afternoon. As you can already see, I'm an advocate for individuals who are hard of hearing and deaf, or for all individuals who have a disability. My problem is, since I've moved here from Chicago, that I've experienced and seen myself a lot of people who have no sensitivity toward people with disabilities. It's a great idea for us to hire individuals with disabilities, but why just hire them and then just leave them to do whatever and not train them, not train the other staff or the people who are working with them to have some type of sensitivity. For example, there are individuals who work at Wendy's, and when they're told to do something, they're yelling at the individual. It was one day I came in to place an order, and I had to sit and I had to sign and tell the woman, there's no need to yell because she can't hear you. So while I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the manager, and she said, okay, we'll just let her interpret. No, you train your people how to do it. What I want to know, if you're elected, what steps, other than just saying, okay, hire an individual with a disability, will you make sure, happen to make sure there's sensitivity training also involved in that? Thank you.
This candidate would like to address the issue.
I believe that this community need to get involved with everything, including the churches that is here, the homes, the family, the parents, to get involved and start teaching the basic values of family. If we be sarcastic is a mental problem, psychological problem to the individual. If we call in the individual name, it affects that individual maybe temporarily or forever. And I believe that all of these values need to first start at the home. And if we have the Channel 12, WTGX, the PBS stations that we have around here, and all the other stations that get benefits from the government and the federal government, we can have a program to deal with values and not the issues that we have here, like other things. But if we start from the churches, giving programs and WTGX to deal with teachers' values in the home, in the community, I think that would help circumvent the problems that we have.
Any other candidate? She's addressing, what would you as a legislator do with regard to the issue she brought up?
Yeah, just as there is sexual harassment training, I think there should be training as well for being sensitive to people with disabilities. There should also be accountability so that when you have done wrong or gone against the training, that you could be reprimanded. Because you need to understand there's consequences to doing things that are yeah, sorry, that's what I'm saying. I think we need to have training, and we need to also have a place where people could call and make their grievance, file their grievance. Okay.
And just as a follow-up, an advertisement for USED, they do have employment training for employers, and I think they're going to have training again this month in October. But on a regular basis, there's employer-offered training. I've done it at the Small Business Administration, and to address your concerns, some of the issues with regard go deep into why we have the stigma against persons with disabilities, is some of the issues that people are taught. They don't even realize what's being taught. And we try to expose those unknown factors that people carry around with them. So the employer training is available. They just have to contact USED. Advise other employers about the training that's coming up. It's brought on, and Cornell University has been down here and trained trainers to talk to the employers and train the employers as well. So we've had help from all 5 universities, partnered with USED to do employment training for the employers. I think we have one other question from the public. That was a free plug for USED. You didn't catch it.
Hi, good day. How are you? My name is Cecile Arbor. I'm a volunteer teacher's aide, and I also have challenges, but that's what they are. They're challenges. And I find solutions because there's 8 different learning styles, as I tell my professors, and I use a sense of humor when I get stigmas in this very room. I just find solutions. There's all different ways to address the solutions, and the best way to do it is face them head on. So that's what I'm here to do today. I'm here because I'm a pillar of strength in this community, and I have a voice. And my voice is not just my own, it's some of the voices of the individuals in this setting, as well as individuals that aren't able to be here, but wanted to be here. My question specifically to you was question number 13. I laid out those documents on the table today, and some of you were able to get them, and some of you were not. So I will just repeat the question again. And if you would like to participate in museum education initiatives, I'm trying to say that I have been working diligently to promote museum education initiatives, and some of the people who have been assisting with that are in this room because I'm trying to promote foreign language. The question I'll read aloud. Are you ready? With specific examples, I just gave you one as museum education. I just said that I've worked direct community engagement with individuals from all ages, including preschool all the way up to senior citizens as old as 86. So I just want to ask this question. I have an example in my hand of what I can do, but I want to know what you are going to do when I come to you and say, I've gotten an in-kind donation, a grassroots entity, and I got a lesson plan. Will you support that? The question number 13 is, with specific examples, how do you plan on making a difference in the lives of individuals with disabilities in the Virgin Islands community? Thank you.
And actually, we got to add on to that. One of the issues that's come up within the Department of Education is that American Sign Language in some jurisdictions is considered a foreign language for credit. Why should a student go through a special ed and also have to get a credit for Spanish to be taught by an American Sign Language teacher in Spanish translated to English, when actually American Sign Language is a language in and of itself? You get an interpreter to interpret. So what you can do as the senators is pass legislation that will specifically address making American Sign Language a foreign language so they can get credit for it because they have to learn it as well.
I can provide evidence to support those kinds of opportunities that would be specific to Palomar College in San Marcos, California. And that's the reason that I assisted Stephanie Brown when she was an instructor here at the University of the Virgin Islands. I'm disappointed, saddened that the University of the Virgin Islands has not.
Well, we're not going to, at this point in time, we're not going to go into individual cases with regard to issues.
I just want to say a few words about American Sign Language. VIU said about 5-6 years ago, developed an associate degree program in American Sign Language, and we were able to get small grant. And with that small grant, we sent, because the tuition was being paid by that grant, and I specifically wrote a letter to every commissioner and every senator. Senator Bashner and Janet Miller were not elected then, but to all the senators who were there, we sent them a letter to identify an individual to come and take those courses for free. Some people send, some others do not. I don't sign, and I didn't understand the language very well at that time, but we were able to teach them how to sign and how to interpret. By the time we finished the courses of how to sign, before we reach into interpretation, they have to master the language in order to be able to interpret. We ran out of money. Now we have the program on the shelf, and if you people could assign some money, or allocate some money, we would be able to offer these courses and will be able to train as many Virgin Islands as possible. So this is already there. It's just there is a need of money, and if we pay tuition for individuals, several government and non-government workers would be able to come and benefit from this program. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Kurtz.
I was volunteer for that. I was volunteer. Didn't get paid to help someone.
Ms. Arbor, we have one other person who has a question.
Good afternoon again.
Well, if you want to address it afterwards, because we're trying to do general questions, not individual cases.
No, they're not individual cases, but I think in general, since Dr. Hapti's also added to it,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, since we have an advocacy group before us, so that you understand that the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the oil. And so, because you address us as aspirants and senators, doesn't mean that we know everything. If this is a problem, or something that you believe that the solution is right at your, just right at your fingertips, just ask the question, come to a senator and propose it. When people say that the same problems have been occurring for years and years and years, that's not totally accurate, because when you have a sitting legislature and you have human cycles, the cycle continues. And so things are fixed and things break, and you fix those. That they break, and you fix those. This happens to be a situation that you obviously knew that there is a solution, and the very best way to get it resolved is to make a proposal to a senator or to even the Board of Education, and that's how the system works. It doesn't work because you know that there's a problem and you figure somebody should know. Does that answer your question? Thank you so much.
Good afternoon again. I have a school-age child who started out in Head Start as an inclusive program. It is done in Head Start, in which if you have a child with any type of disabilities, they're in Head Start. My question to you is, why is it they have not implemented it in elementary schools? Even if you have the inclusive classes, you don't have the staffing. In in Head Start, you have 20 kids in the classroom. You have 2 assistant teachers, and you have 1 teacher to take care of all the students. So if you have a special needs child, their needs are taken care of. I would like to know, how would you implement that program that is already working in our system into our elementary program so our children could get where they need to be in our future? Thank you.
Kennedy?
Well, I feel like if there is a push for reducing funds to services like that from human services, that we should encourage training for people who are willing to volunteer their services. There are a lot of people who are retired who I'm sure would like to learn skills like that to participate in the community. Maybe we could have a internship program at UVI for people who are interested in learning elementary education. So we could offer training for volunteers, and I think that's a big step that we could do.
Yes,
and to add to that, this seems to be an opportunity for us to employ some of our members of our community. We train them, we educate them, and we ask for them to return so we can fill these voids that we have in our elementary system going all the way up to the high schools, because this is not just on the elementary level, it actually is going up into the high schools and junior highs. We need to recognize these problems and provide staffing for these situations.
Any other candidate?
I think I need to clarify it a little bit more so you can really understand where I'm coming from. We already have inclusive programs in Head Start. Within that program, we have the staffing to take care of our children. We are trying to do inclusive in elementary, junior high, and high school. There are teachers within these settings who are not trained to deal with the children. And even if they are trained, there are too many kids in their classroom. So we need more help so the children do not fall through the crack. My child is a child with autism. If you see my son, he is 5 years old. You will never know if you see him walking in the street. You'll never know. My son can take anybody's phone, iPad on that table, open it, manipulate it, without being taught how to use it. He's 5. So I would appreciate it if you would answer the question.
Ms. Sandler, got one issue. You're talking to the legislature to pass laws. Actually, the law for special ed is already on the books with regard to what you really talk about now is implementation. And one of the things we already talked about is the top heaviness, or maybe it wasn't this panel, the top heaviness of the Department of Education, whereas if you look at it, and I had a chance to look at it from the lawsuit, a lot of the money is spent at the top, and very few dollars and pennies go to the students. If you recall, one year, students didn't even have enough books. You're in the system. A lot of times, the teachers are not paid what they should be paid comparably in the States, and it's a top-heavy system because of heavy administration. So, as far as the law is concerned, what is required is already on the books. And I think it really is an issue of implementation and what parents can do to get together and advocate as a group. I'm sending people out to the PTA meetings, letting them know, parents, organize yourself. Because the legislature will tell you, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Board of Education, maybe it needs to be addressed. Something may be needed for a full range of review of how that educational system is set up.
I'm going to add this also. Part of it is our upbringing of the people in our country, culture, that we don't take into consideration that people who are disabled can do. And we need to get that mindset out of our heads, that they can do, even if it means pressing one button at a flashing red light. They can do. They don't deserve to be put in a corner and not. Because when we leave, when I leave, what's going to happen to him? I'm not going to be here. I have to make sure I plan for his future, that he can stand on his own 2 feet. And I need the help, because I cannot leave St. Thomas to go to the States to do it. I'm going to give more personal information because my mother was sick. I left school in 2003 to take care of her. I had my son in 2006. My son is a recessive autistic child, or child with autism, I'm sorry. Meaning, you have language, normal development, then it falls off. He never looked at you. He never recognized his name. You can call him now. He will talk to you. His language is producing. I need more help. I have used the small amount of programs that are here between speech, occupational, and physical therapy to get him where he is, but he needs more. We only have 1 hour sometimes in school because we don't have enough therapists to take care of the population of children. And I'm sorry to sound like if I'm on a soapbox, but I think being that I'm in the situation, I'm the best advocate to get the point across. This is a thing that you need to fix. You need to fix it. I want it fixed. I don't want no more excuses. I want it fixed. And I don't want it fixed for my child alone. I want it fixed for all the kids in the Virgin Islands. Everyone.
Ms. Drayton, Ms. Samuel, I'll give you an opportunity to tell the Department of Education yourself. They have a leadership conference on October 22nd, 24th, out at Sugar Bay. And I have a session on stigmatism and sensitivity training. So I'll invite you to give that same speech to the people who are in control of the school system. Candidates, at this point in time, because we're at 3 o'clock, we're going to start at Mr. Muhammad. You have 5 minutes to wrap up. 3. Get the high side. You have 3 minutes to get your closing, and let us know why you would want to be a senator of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Thank you.
Again, listening audience, I'm Omodoso Mohammed, number 12 on the ballot. Our main purpose of running for the 30th legislature is that we're having great problems here in the Virgin Islands. We have students that are graduating out of high schools with little to no skill. And I want you to support that we have vocational, tech, and professional high schools mandatory here in the territory. That if our students, when they graduate from out of 12th grade, not only they have a diploma granted for the 12th grade, but they will have certification of the skill that they acquire. And if they are going to professional subjects, it will be equivalent to an associate degree. And with the support of the UVI staff, we could make it happen. There's nothing wrong in making it happen. We also have a crime problem here in the Virgin Islands. There are too many killings, too many problems. And I also support that we increase the numbers of patrol officers here in each district to approximately 200 to employ. I also would like to see the health department bring back the professionals ENT doctors, doctors that deal with other specialty in the hospitals, that when we have a medical problem in the emergency room and they do a translist to the patient, they could go and get the medical help. We have a lot of problems here in the Virgin Islands, and job creation is very important. If we, again, create the vocational tech and vocational high schools, we could create thousands of jobs here in the Virgin Islands. We have seen many times before with the disabled personnel that have protests, those with the wheelchair, where we had the ramps, they had no ramps in the sidewalks, and many years ago we had protests, and the legislature passed laws that build ramps. Even some of the sidewalks don't have ramps, but I believe that if the person that, if you do more protests at the legislature, I think they will hear, we will hear your concern. And again, the staff, I want to thank you. Voice that comes, wish you all good luck in the campaign. And members of this community, again, I'm Omodoso Amir Mohammed, number 12 on your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Candidate Amy.
Good afternoon again. Neville Champion Amy, number 11 on the ballot. I was glad to be here. It was what I expected. I learned a lot, and I'll go back and resort a lot that I learned today. I've been a community server all my life, 18 years, educator. I'm the president of LOS to the Lead West for the past 6 years. I'm also founded many programs. The Art Trust Summer Enrichment Program with my friend Stefan Jorgens, and I also started the Stop the Violent Youth Program that run 15 years, and we sent a lot of kids to college, and we changed a lot of people's life. I want you to vote for me so I can continue to save life and be back home to this Virgin Islands. The reason I'm running for Senate is to bring back respect to the Virgin Islands, okay, and a community unity, okay? All I heard the lady talk about respect to the disabled. We lost respect to it for everybody right now. Nobody don't respect nobody in the Virgin Islands. Everybody living for themselves, so what we get? We got to get back to that life when we all look out for each other. Even when we were young, my mother never locked her door. Okay, now you try to lock everything. Okay, even your car, even anything you lock, you lock. Okay, I lock my son's school bag and all something. Okay, that's how dangerous the place has come. If I'm elected for senator, I'm going to try to make laws to stop the violence, this non-violence that's coming right now. It's not the young people that kill each other with these guns. These have major players with these guns coming to the Virgin Islands. And basically with my colleagues and us, and you all go sit down and make good laws to help bring back this place, safe place, help our police officers, and help our frontline workers them to educate all of the people of the Virgin Islands that they can know what's going on, and don't feel that because something is voted like the law against peace officer. You know, laws is made. Some people don't like them, some people don't like them. Okay? And because if you don't like a law, you just don't care. You have to support it and see how we can make it work. And that's what I do for all the laws that pass the Virgin Islands. I love kids, I love elderly, and I never disrespect a disabled person. And on November 6th, I want to vote Neville Champion Amy. I will make a difference in this Virgin Island because I love this place and I live there all my life. Thank you for having me. UVI, thanks for everything. My colleague wish I had the best. November 6th, and no, I can't wait. Thank you.
Candidate Barsinger.
Thank you once again for having us here. Good afternoon to you all, and thank you to VIU SID. It's very informative. As I said before, I've always learned from being at this, and today was no exception. We have some serious problems in the territory. Some of the problems we discussed today are that the disabled community is disproportionately underrepresented in the workforce. We have to fix that through legislation. We have some ideas on how to do that now. We also have skyrocketing costs, most particularly the electricity. It's crushing businesses, new businesses won't come, and there are more than just a few dozen people who are living as we lived back in the 30s without electricity. That is really unacceptable in today's modern age. We can do something about that. The police patrols have to be increased. We can do something about that. The Department of Education is in the process of revamping itself. We know we're not getting the results we want out of that. But all of those things together, they're like balloons, and they're held together in one place. And you hold those strings, and that's transparency. That whole cluster of bright balloons that we can solve is held together by that one place called transparency, where we need to make sure that the money that we get in the legislature is spent properly. And I pledge to make sure that happens, so that the drama that you've looked at in the last few years, the last year particularly, stops. I'm embarrassed for it. I'm sympathetic to you and what you've gone through in the public. I will tell you that not just myself, but other senators have fought to get some openness and transparency. I can tell you that we've actually found a lawyer to sue the legislature and have a town meeting on St. Thomas on the 23rd at American Yacht Harbor. We have 94 people who are signing up to be in this lawsuit. The people should not have to sue their legislature, but we got to the point where we wouldn't take it anymore. So that is an opportunity for you if you are interested in getting transparency. But the best opportunity is on November 6th, because on November 6th, we're going to have a changing of the guards, and if you elect people who come to the legislature with a servant's heart, who want to help rather than take a little next thing for themselves, you're going to be successful in solving some of these other big problems. But it starts with handling the money responsibly. We all know that if we handle your money the way we would handle the money for our own families and our loved ones, we will fly free in this territory, and we will achieve our full potential. I am Craig Barshinger, number 1 on the ballot, your Senator at Large.
Thank you. Massage?
I'm Jody Hodge, number 37. The reason I am running is because this is serious times. I do not feel comfortable sitting back and watching the demise of the territory. I've heard in the past, oh, we're not that bad, it's been worse, but I have hope and a vision for the Virgin Islands that is still alive, and I believe that we as a community could do better. We could vote for better, we could come together, and we need to be empowered and assisted by the government to help community operated programs where the government lacks, that we need to come together and fill this void. Right now, there needs to be new perspective. We need to think out of the box. We need to encourage people to work together. I don't understand why there's all this bashing, but we need to focus on the good that we could do in the community. And I think that's the first step. Look for people who are willing to help, who want to serve you, people who have new perspectives, new ideas, people who are willing to try something new. And I support that you vote for me, number 37 on the ballot, November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Young?
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure serving as your senator for the last year and 10 months. I am your only freshman senator. So when you talk about challenges, and you know challenges very well, it was a challenge for me because there wasn't a moment for anybody to teach me anything. Now, I know with so many new persons coming into the Senate, they're gonna have it much easier because persons like me, which I hope that you're still supporting me, will be there to guide them along. I believe that it is all a process, that you don't hold on to all the information to yourself, because then you are no good to the rest of the population. As someone who has dedicated her entire life to community service, I've served on many boards, Rotary, Chamber, Humane Society, Girl Scouts, you name it, and I always aim to serve on the board because as a member you hardly get to do much work, but as and Dr. Haptis will know because he served with me in Rotary, that's what the meat and potatoes is. And so I view serving in the legislature as a higher board, one that has a greater scope of responsibility. And of course, I use it for your children. It's our children in the community. For me, when people ask me about the economy and crime, I keep telling them education is my priority. And it is because without having an educated community, we can't have economic development. Because it's one thing to say you want a job, because people tell me that all the time. So that I need a job. And I always tell them, you need to be trained, you need to be educated. So that is where I see myself fulfilling this role. I have done it by, again, visiting the schools, knowing where the need is help, the help is needed, and appropriating those monies along with my colleagues. Again, the budget has never seen this much money for our young people. And my greatest accomplishment, the Youth Commission, is really important because while we have DLCA and DLCA it's over the businesses, the Youth Commission is going to bring youth organizations together because our young people are being ignored. We're talking about sending them to jail, and I'm talking about educating them. Once they're educated and they have work, they grow up into productive citizens, just like you in this room. Thank you, Voices That Count. You do count. I took some of your advice last time, Ms. Carty, and everybody else, and I will take your advice this time, again, if elected. My number is number 9, November 6th. Your Senator, Jeanette Millen-Young. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Kelly. Georges?
Hi, good afternoon. I was well educated today, and I appreciate the time you allowed me to have here to speak on what I believe in. Now, just this lovely 3-hour session, I learned simple things: crime, alternative energy, job development, education. All of them have taken the front seat to your needs, the needs of the disabled. I don't think anyone here can say that they felt the sympathy that you guys expressed today, gave us the education that we needed today to realize that there is a need in this community to address. And it's so simple because it's not only locally, it seems like it's worldwide. So we have a chance to take a stand and be an example to the rest of the world in terms of taking our disabled and putting them at the forefront and giving them the opportunities they deserve. We need to be very diligent and use this experience that we have, that we just have, and it shouldn't only be every year, I think. And I know Dr. Aptis has very plans to make sure everyone understands that every day. But your voice needs to be heard on a different level. How will that be accomplished? With new vision, new direction, and new leadership. Your vision is to educate the people of the Virgin Islands about the disabled, their qualifications, their needs, and what they can do for the community. New direction means you've got to look at new faces who have the opportunity to come out here and speak on your behalf. And new leadership, I think it's time for us to change. Give us the opportunity this year. Give us the opportunity November 6th. New vision, new direction, new leadership. I'm a young man who was devoted to the Virgin Islands. I spent my life here. I was educated here at the University of the Virgin Islands. And they gave me an opportunity to be employed at the university and return and give back to the community. And that's all we plan to do. That's all I plan to do right here, right now. In terms of education, we see it every day. Every time we look at our educational system, the kids that come to the University of the Virgin Islands from our system are the ones that are in remedial courses. Those are the ones that are in classes that need extra classes to get ready for college life. It's clear our education system is failing our kids. And as you said, administrative levels or where the money is being spent, it does not reach to our students. They don't have the equipment, they're not getting the training. And as that sympathetic parent said, they're not even being trained to deal with the mentally ill. We need to work harder and we need to make better decisions on what we do with the money, and especially aim at our people in the community.
Warning.
Sean A. Georges, number 6 on your ballot. So this November 6th, let's vote number 6. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate.
Good afternoon. I first want to start by thanking UVI SET for holding this Voices That Count forum. Thanks for the audience that asked the hard questions. I want to also thank my aspirants next to me, and of course the incumbents that are also seeking re-election. It's a learning experience. I thank you for the opportunity to give you my perspective, if I'm elected as a senator, what I can do for persons with disabilities. But it was also a learning experience to learn some of the problems that you're having here in this society. All too often we have politicians that love to hear themselves talk. I'm one that loves to listen. I want to listen to the problems that you have. I want to listen to some of your ideas on how we can solve those problems, and I want to implement. All too often, we talk, and do not implement, and it's time that we start looking at ways to remove all of these barriers and all of these obstacles that are hampering us as a society. We talk about what we have done in the past, especially with like sidewalks and stuff like that, making them accessible. But I think we don't take it seriously. We have people parking on the sidewalk, so when you try to traverse the sidewalks, you can't get to the ramps and stuff like that. And it doesn't take a person with disability to be in a wheelchair to figure that out. Just go downtown with a stroller with a kid in it, a child in it, and you realize how difficult it is to traverse downtown area. But with the stroller, we have the option of bumping it off the sidewalk and getting back up. In a wheelchair, we really don't have those options. And I want to educate. We need to start educating the public to let them know how serious it is to violate these laws by parking in parking spaces that are not designated for you, for blocking accessible sidewalks and stuff like that. So I really want to thank you for educating me today on some of the issues. Of course, some of them I already knew, and listen to the ideas and my perspective of how we can address some of the issues that we have in here in the community. Again, I'm Clifford Graham, number 7, a Democrat running for the 30th legislature, and I thank you.
They're not accessible. There's no transparency. Even some of the departments you go, I went to get the copy of the TULAS budget, and I have not received a return call from the office. So it's simple to me that the government is the problem. I think the people and the taxpayer of this territory needs new faces, new input, except for 1 or 2. And I believe once I am elected senator, which I believe I am going to be, we will have an office open 6 days a week, one of which I, as your senator, will be in that office all day long to hear what your problems are and how we can solve them. Again, my name is Charles Worth Halstead, number 16 on your ballot, working with the ICM party. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Halstead. Candidate Williams.
Good afternoon, and thank you again for having me here. It has been, as others have mentioned, a good learning experience and good information shared. I want to underscore that I have been an advocate for hiring those with disabilities, because I've worked in Frenchman's Reef Marriott. I work in the healthcare field at Schneider Regional Medical Center in human resources. I've done trainings for managers so that they understand what is necessary regarding the law that pertains to people with disabilities and what accommodations that we are required to make. So I have been advocating for hiring those with disabilities. And I, as a senator, will continue to make sure that there's a light shed on the challenges that you face, and so that there are answers and solutions to the problems that you've mentioned here today. And I'm number 21 on the ballot, Lisa M.
Thank you. And Candidate Payne.
All right. Thank you. The organization that sponsored this event today, thank you all for hosting. I remember 2 years ago, it was just as vibrant, and I like the fact that you guys are sticking to it. I think that's excellent. To my colleagues, potential colleagues up here, aspirants, along with current senators. And I don't know if you all noticed, but Mr. Jennings, he needs to consider some political office down the road. I'm not going to say what. I'm leaving it wide open. But
not a politician.
I am enthusiastically looking forward to this opportunity to be one of the senators come January. I bring a wealth of experience in a variety of areas. Ironically, my specialty is social work, so I would hit the ground running in your support. I know how to advocate in that area. I work at Human Services. I know the intricate relationships that are necessary to advocate for you. I know that the units where you have rehabilitation, and you work closely with that group. I know the commissioners. I know many of the laws. So having me in there would be a natural fit, and I can also pass that expertise on to my colleagues. So I am enthusiastically looking forward to representing you. And when I'm elected, my name is Clarence Payne, number 35 on the ballot. I'm running as a Democrat. Also think about Obama. All that good stuff. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. It's a very good forum. And let's give them a big round of applause. What was our final number? He's in his own world. What's our final number?
Oh, sorry. 550.
550.
555.
555. We're online watching you this afternoon, as well as the audience here.
Is it available on the site? Like, can you watch it later?
It will be on YouTube when?
Next 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. Okay.
One thing I forgot to properly do, and most of you probably already knew him, but introduce our moderator as the managing attorney for the Territorial Disability Rights Center. Thank you, Archie. Let me, we made up some lost time. I think all of you will agree that this was an outstanding session. Let me call up our Senior Executive Director of the Virgin Islands University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disability to properly thank you all.
Yeah, we had a good discussion, but first I want to say a few words about inclusion. Ms. Samuel left. Senator Millian, I was in front of your committee and I testified extensively about inclusion. It's on the record. What's happening with inclusion is, number one, inclusion is the law of the land. Secondly, that statute says the money should follow the child. But what we're doing right now is we are placing children in the regular classroom, but the services are not following. This is what Ms. Samuel was talking about. We have to train. The success of children or students who are included in regular classrooms is measured by the time they spend one-to-one. But if a regular teacher has about 20 students, and then if we send 1 or 2 students with special needs, he or she will not be able to give them the needed one-to-one attention. This is the crook of the matter. We have to pay attention. And we said earlier, a lot of children come to the high schools, the junior high school, they don't do the math, they don't do the reading, they act out, they get suspended or dismissed. And then they are in the street creating havoc. So you have to think about this. Having said that, I really want to thank you. It was a heart-to-heart discussion. With any one of you in the office, the territory would have a bright future. Thank you very much. I want to thank Attorney Jennings, Attorney McLean, where are you? Thank you very much for a job well done. I want to thank the interpreter, Ms. Lark, for a job well done. And finally, I want to thank the staff of the IUC, the Associate Director, Charles Beatty, the Program, the Assistant Director, Carco, would you stand to be seen, please? There. And also the Program Development Specialist, Ms. Andrea Plunkett, up there. Thank you very much. With that, I wish you all the best. And don't forget, you are on the record. You made some promises. We are going to follow through and see you in your respective offices if you are elected. Thank you.
One more. Just a final note to the senators. Dr. Hopkins is shy, but you might want to Google up Perceptions of Inclusion by Virgin Island Educators, an article he just published.